All right, so today we are diving into the world of business ethics.
Fascinating stuff.
It really is. We're going to be exploring whether companies can actually be both ethical and successful, in today's business world.
Yeah, it's a question a lot of people are asking, right? It's like, is
Yeah.
doing good just good PR, or can it actually impact, a company's bottom line? I guess that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a ton of articles and case studies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're even going to take a peek into some real-world scandals. But I guess first things first, how do we even define business ethics? Like, is there some universal rule book, or is it more of like a judgment call?
It's interesting. Looking at what we have, it seems like it's a bit of both. Because, yeah, there are some, ethical principles that just feel fundamental. But then what's considered right or wrong
Hmm.
can really, really change a lot.
Yeah.
And it depends on the industry, the country, even just like social media trends.
So it's not always like a clear cut, like do this, not that kind of scenario.
Right.
More like navigating some gray areas.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. Like, take the Volkswagen emissions scandal, for example.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you remember that?
Yeah.
They were marketing their cars as, environmentally friendly, but it turned out to be a totally different story.
Yeah.
And that case really shows how complicated these ethical decisions can be, especially for a global company.
Yeah, it was definitely a PR nightmare for
Right.
Volkswagen. What's the key takeaway for other businesses?
Well, I think just thinking about it, transparency from the beginning is so important. For Volkswagen, prioritizing like short-term profits over honesty, it really cost them in the long run.
Yeah.
They had legal battles, their stock price plummeted, and their reputation, I mean, they're still trying to recover from that.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like even though there's that pressure to succeed, being dishonest can really backfire.
Oh, well, big time.
Yeah. But what about companies that are really trying to do good? Like, does that actually translate into better business?
There's actually a lot of evidence that says it does. Like, there are studies that have shown a strong connection between environmental sustainability initiatives and a company's profits going up.
Interesting. So going green isn't just good for the planet, it could be good for business.
It really seems that way, yeah. One study actually showed that companies who were really invested in what they called eco-innovation, they actually did better than their competitors.
Wow.
Yeah, they had growth rates 15% higher than companies that weren't focused on sustainability.
So it's not just about slapping a green label on things.
Right.
What's causing those good results for those companies?
Well, it's a lot of things. I think part of it is that what customers want is changing.
Okay.
People are thinking more about how what they buy impacts the world, and they want to support businesses that share their values, right?
Mm.
But it's not just that. There are also good things that happen inside companies.
Yeah.
Eco-innovation often comes with like being more efficient, having less waste,
Makes sense.
and it builds a stronger brand that attracts good employees.
So it's like this ripple effect. Ethical actions, they make a business stronger from the inside out.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually brings up a really interesting thing. It's called impact investing.
Okay.
So before, investors just wanted more money, but now they're looking for companies that are making the world better, socially or environmentally.
So for companies that are serious about ethics, it's not just about staying out of trouble. It's about reaching a whole new group of customers and investors who really care.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this win-win for everyone.
He does sound that way.
But let's be real, the business world is really competitive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure to do well, and that can lead some companies to do things that aren't so ethical.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've all seen those misleading ads.
For sure.
Or, heard about those companies with bad labor practices or selling products that don't live up to their promises.
It's a slippery slope, for sure. And I think what our research shows is that this constant pressure to like cut corners, especially now when everything moves so fast, it can lead to what they call ethical fading. It's like ethical considerations just kind of disappear when you're trying to meet deadlines and stuff.
Ethical fading, interesting. It's like they slowly fade away in the heat of the moment.
Exactly.
It makes sense. But how do companies prevent that then? How do they keep ethics front and center when everything's so intense?
That's where building a strong ethical foundation from the ground up is so important.
Okay.
It's more than just putting it on paper. It has to be a real part of how the company works and what it believes in.
So if ethics are only a surface level thing, they're probably going to disappear when things get tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eh?
We should talk more about that. How do companies build that strong core
Yeah.
to handle those pressures.
It really is like, building a house, right?
Yeah.
You need that strong foundation to survive anything. So how do companies actually build that, like, ethical core?
Well, it has to start at the top.
Yeah.
You know, the leaders, they set the example. They're the ones who weave those values into like the DNA of the company.
So it's not enough to just talk about it. They have to actually live it.
Exactly, yeah. Because employees, they can see right through that.
Yeah.
If a company says one thing but does another, that hypocrisy just destroys trust, and, any ethical initiatives they're trying to do just won't work.
Right. It's got to be walking the walk, not just talking the talk. What are some like concrete things companies can do to make sure that happens?
Honesty, I think, is so important. Being open about your ethics, both inside the company and to the public, that makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Being upfront about, like, where you get your materials, your labor standards, even things like conflicts of interest.
So being really transparent, kind of like showing everyone they've got nothing to hide.
Exactly, yeah.
Uh,
And that can actually make your brand stronger and get your employees more invested.
yeah.
When employees feel like their company is being honest and ethical, it gives them something to believe in.
That.
Makes them more loyal, too.
Right, because people want to be a part of something they can be proud of. But, even when you have the best intentions, people mess up. So can companies actually recover from ethical mistakes?
It's hard, but yeah, it's possible. A good example is Nike and what happened in the 90s with child labor in their factories.
Yeah,
I mean, they were hit hard boycotts, protests.
I remember that. I think it really made a lot of companies wake up and realize how important ethical sourcing is.
Totally. And it took time, and they really had to work at it. But Nike, they actually made big changes to how they treat their workers and became more transparent about their whole supply chain.
So they admitted their mistakes, changed how they did things, and eventually earned back some trust.
Yeah, and that brings up a really important point. Building an ethical business, it's not a one-time thing. It's something you always have to work on.
It's a journey, not just a destination.
Right.
And it seems like that journey, it can have some really good results. We talked about how sustainability can lead to more profit, but are there any other like tangible benefits to being an ethical company?
Absolutely. One that people don't always think about is that it helps you find and keep good employees. There's research that shows companies with strong ethics, they have an easier time attracting and holding on to skilled and motivated people.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If you care about ethics, you're going to want to work for a company that shares your values,
That's
right?
right. And it's more than just feeling good about your job. Ethical companies usually put more into training and developing their employees. They create a better work environment, and they tend to have fewer people quitting.
It's like that saying, happy employees make happy customers. Treat your employees well, and that positive energy is going to rub off on the customer experience.
Exactly. And happy customers, they come back, which, of course, is good for business.
For sure.
But it's not all just about feeling good. Ethical behavior, it actually affects your profits in other real ways, too.
Oh, like what? Tell me more.
Well, remember we were talking about impact investing earlier.
Yeah.
That's a rapidly growing part of the market now. Investors, they are specifically looking for companies that are not only profitable, but they're also doing good things for society or the environment.
So if you build an ethical business, you're basically making your company more attractive to a whole new group of investors.
Exactly. It's becoming a deal breaker for a lot of them. And this whole shift towards more conscious capitalism, it's only going to get bigger in the next few years.
It really does seem like ethical business isn't just about doing the right thing anymore. It's becoming crucial to being successful, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Customers are much more informed now, and they have choices.
Right.
They're putting their money where their values are and holding companies accountable if they don't measure up. It's really a powerful force for change.
Yeah, it's like we've hit this turning point,
Right.
where being ethical isn't optional anymore. It's what people expect.
Exactly. And it's not just customers who are demanding more. It's employees, investors, even potential business partners. Everyone's looking for companies that are doing things the right way.
So it's like ethics are becoming this like key indicator of how healthy and stable a company is overall.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just about avoiding bad press anymore. It's about building trust with everyone, attracting the best talent and setting yourself up for success in the long run, especially now that social and environmental responsibility are so important.
This has been such an interesting deep dive.
It really has.
We talked about how complex business ethics can be, the pressure that companies are under, and all the evidence that suggests doing good is actually good for business.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest takeaway is that being ethical isn't just something you check off a list.
Yeah.
You know, it's this ongoing process.
Right.
You have to be willing to look at yourself, adapt, and really commit to making things better.
So as we wrap things up here, what's like the one key takeaway you would want to leave with our listeners today?
That's a good question. I think it comes down to this. Every choice we make, whether we're buying something, working for a company, or running our own businesses, it all has an impact. When we support companies that share our values, it creates this like ripple effect that goes way beyond just profits. We can actually build a future where doing the right thing and being successful go hand in hand.
That's a great point to end on. Choose wisely, everyone, and we'll see you next time.